March 9, 1945. The sun dipped behind the Pacific horizon as the airfields of Guam, Saipan, and Tinian shimmered under the fading light. Across the tarmac, ground crews swarmed over hundreds of silver-skinned B-29 Superfortress bombers, their propellers gleaming like polished blades. Major General Curtis LeMay, commander of the 21st Bomber Command, had approved a daring new strategy, a low-altitude, nighttime incendiary assault on Tokyo. Mechanics loaded the massive bomb bays with E-46 clusters, each containing 1,520 M69 napalm bomblets. It was not merely another raid. It was a gamble that would test the limits of modern warfare, a calculated firestorm aimed at the heart of Japan. The B-29 Superfortress represented the pinnacle of wartime engineering, a billion-dollar marvel with pressurized cabins, remote-controlled turrets, and the might of 4 Wright R-3350 engines. Built in plants across America, Seattle, Wichita, Omaha, Marietta, this aircraft embodied industrial power turned to destruction. Each could carry 10 tons of bombs across 1,600 miles, flying higher and faster than any previous bomber. By spring 1945, nearly 2,000 B-29s had rolled off assembly lines, proof that American industry could build machines faster than Japan could shoot them down. Across the sea, Japan's air defenses were in crisis. The Imperial Army and Navy operated disjointed command systems. Night fighters like the Nakajima J-1N Gecko and Kawasaki Ki-45 Toryu were few and primitive, many lacking radar altogether. Anti-aircraft batteries around Tokyo were limited, barely 500 guns to protect a city of millions. Searchlights swept the sky, guided by sound detectors instead of electronics. Pilots were short on fuel, training, and hope. Japan had entered the technological shadow of modern war. When LeMay took command in January 1945, precision bombing from 30,000 feet had failed miserably. Jetstream winds scattered bombs, clouds hid targets, engines overheated. His solution was brutal logic. Strip the B-29s of most guns to carry more fire, attack low, and strike at night. Altitudes of 5,000 to 9,000 feet would bypass the jet stream, improve accuracy, and exploit Japan's lack of radar. Each bomber would fly solo, guided by radio beacons, dropping incendiaries in a steady flow that would merge into one massive inferno. Weather forecasts promised clear skies and wind, perfect conditions for a city made of wood. At 17:35 hours, the first B-29 thundered down Guam's North Field runway, its engines shaking the island. One by one, 325 bombers rose into the evening sky, silver trails glowing against the twilight. Pilots adjusted oxygen masks, checked compasses, and stared into a 14-hour mission that would carry them across 3,000 miles of dark ocean. They flew light and fast, stripped of armor and gunner crews. Somewhere ahead, Mount Fuji's white peak would rise like a ghost, their final checkpoint before hell. Tokyo on the night of March 9th was quiet. In the working-class districts of Asakusa, Honjo, and Fukagawa, narrow wooden homes lined winding alleys. Families huddled in flimsy dugouts or simply stayed indoors, confident the bombers would aim for factories or docks. Only 18 concrete shelters existed for the city's 4 million people. Firefighting units possessed hand pumps and buckets, tools of peace against what was coming. Air raid sirens began their long moan around 10:30 p.m., but few realized it signaled the beginning of history's greatest firestorm. At 12:08 a.m., March 10th, the Pathfinder B-29s arrived over Tokyo, flying low through still air. They dropped M47 napalm bombs, marking the target with blazing X-shaped beacons visible for miles. Moments later, the main formation appeared, 279 bombers descending to just 5,000 feet. Hatches opened, and waves of M69 clusters spilled into the night, each bomblet spinning, streamers fluttering, delayed fuses ticking toward ignition. From the ground, it looked like metallic rain falling through orange-black clouds. The first explosions ripped through Shitamachi's crowded neighborhoods. Within minutes, thousands of separate fires merged, feeding on wind and oxygen until they became one. Flames leapt from roof to roof. Wooden beams crackled and disintegrated. The wind, gusting at 45 miles per hour, turned alleys into chimneys of death. Asphalt melted beneath fleeing civilians' feet. The air grew thick and red, so hot that metal curled and glass liquefied. The firestorm generated its own hurricane, hurling debris into the sky as buildings exploded like tinder. 24-year-old Yoshiko Hashimoto clutched her infant as she fled through burning streets. The firebombs sounded like heavy rain striking the earth. Around her, neighbors screamed as walls collapsed. At the Sumida River, families jumped into boiling water to escape the flames. Yoshiko's father pushed her and the baby into the current, an act that saved them, but her parents and sister perished. Later she would tell historians, "The sky was red, and the air itself seemed to burn." Her voice became one of the few that carried the truth beyond the ashes. As the night deepened, the inferno consumed entire districts. Firefighters abandoned trucks when heat made metal handles glow red. Those who stayed suffocated as oxygen vanished. The city's water lines ruptured, pumps failed, and fire engines sank into melted roads. Even stone temples crumbled under relentless heat. Refugees crowded into schools and shrines, only to find them collapsing moments later. The wind roared like a jet engine. Tokyo's night became brighter than day, a man-made sunrise of destruction. By dawn, the eastern wards were gone. Estimates varied: 100,000 dead, 125,000 injured, more than 1 million homeless. Bodies filled canals and open squares. Entire families vanished without trace. Investigators found only fused objects, metal cookware, coins, watches melted into the earth. The fire had erased identity itself. American crews returning to base could see the smoke from 1,500 miles away. They lost only 14 bombers, a figure small compared to the horror left behind. When LeMay received the results, he said quietly, "If I had lost the war, I would have been tried as a war criminal." His superiors, including General Henry Hap Arnold, congratulated him. The mission had proven American resolve, but behind those words lay unease. The line between military necessity and mass slaughter had blurred. The operation had worked exactly as designed. That was the horror. Within 10 days, the fire reached other cities: Nagoya, Osaka, Kobe. Each became another chapter in the new strategy. Burn Japan's industrial heart until surrender became inevitable. American factories produced 50,000 tons of incendiaries per month, while Japan struggled to make ammunition. The contrast was staggering. U.S. industry built B-29s faster than Japan could bury its dead. For LeMay, it was science turned into warfare, physics, chemistry, and wind all weaponized. The Japanese response bordered on the futile. Pilots lacking radar chased shadows through smoke. Some rammed bombers intentionally. Fire brigades armed with bamboo buckets faced rivers of napalm. Communications collapsed. Government orders to protect morale silenced warnings. Civilians, not soldiers, bore the consequences of national pride. The empire's ideology of sacrifice met the reality of modern industry and lost. As dawn rose, Tokyo was unrecognizable. A landscape of ash and skeletal ruins stretching 15 square miles. Survivors wandered through silence, broken only by the crackle of embers. Hospitals, schools, and temples had vanished. Teams dug mass graves while rivers clogged with debris. For weeks, the city smelled of smoke and sorrow. More than material loss, it was the destruction of identity, the death of neighborhoods, traditions, and generations. Behind the destruction was cold calculation. American researchers had built full-scale Japanese house replicas at WWII Proving Ground, testing how wood burned, how napalm spread, how wind carried flames. Chemists from Harvard and Standard Oil perfected the M69's jellied gasoline. Warfare had become a laboratory experiment. Predictable, measurable, repeatable. Japan's spiritual warfare doctrine could not compete with chemistry and manufacturing. Decades later, survivors spoke of unbearable heat, black rain, and lost families. Many carried scars, physical and emotional, throughout their lives. Children orphaned that night grew into adults who never knew their parents' fates. Katsumoto Satomi, a survivor, founded the center of the Tokyo raids and war damage to preserve their stories. Yet, outside Japan, few remembered. Hiroshima and Nagasaki overshadowed their suffering, even though more died in Tokyo's single night of fire. Operation Meeting House redefined modern warfare. It proved that industrialized nations could erase entire cities without nuclear weapons. It showed how precision targets give way to area bombing when frustration replaces strategy. And it raised a question that haunts history: can moral boundaries survive total war? For 5 months after Tokyo burned, Japan fought on, but the seeds of surrender were already smoldering in its ashes. When Emperor Hirohito finally announced surrender that August, he cited the continuing air raids among the reasons. Operation Meeting House had proven what fire could achieve. Yet its legacy remains conflicted, a military success built upon civilian ruin. Historians still debate whether it shortened the war or merely demonstrated that victory and devastation can become indistinguishable. What is certain is that on that night in 1945, Tokyo ceased to be a city and became a warning written in fire. Operation Meeting House stands as the most destructive air raid in human history. 325 B-29s launched, 279 reached target, 1,665 tons of incendiaries dropped, 15.8 square miles destroyed, 100,000 dead. Beyond the numbers lies the truth of modern war. Entire societies can burn when science, industry, and fear combine. As survivors searched the ashes for their loved ones, the world turned its gaze toward atomic power. But Tokyo's fire still glows in memory, reminding us what happens when humanity sets its own sky on fire.